Around 74% of the population suffers from some form of speech anxiety, also known as stage fright. So it is actually much more common than you might think, and actually it is also a very natural response. However, when it becomes overwhelming, it can hinder our potential. So what triggers it, and can we actually overcome stage fright?
Palm sweaty, heart racing, stomach in knots. You can't cry for help. Not only is your throat too tight to breathe, but it'd be so embarrassing. No, you aren't being stalked by a monster. When you're dead, you feel nothing. At a podium, you feel stage fright.
What's up everyone, I'm Anik, I'm a classical pianist and my job is to perform on stage. Now, you might think that people like me who are doing this professionally are born to perform, but I can tell you from my own experience and from what I know from my colleagues, yes we are. Okay, no, seriously. All of us are struggling and every one of us has to deal with their inner demons every single time we go on stage. However, you don't have to do this professionally to get into a situation where you have to perform or present something in front of a couple of people. I'm pretty sure most of you had to hold a presentation in front of your classmates and teachers and colleagues at some point, and most probably you will have to encounter this situation at some point again. So in this video we are going to take a look at what stage fright is, what causes it, and most importantly how to overcome it. Now, since I'm a pianist, I will describe the methods that I use in connection to my job. However, I think that most of these methods you can also transfer for any kind of presentation or public speech. Now, since we're already talking about the stage, here comes a little concert announcement. I'm going to play my New Year's concert at Gewandhaus in Leipzig on the 13th of January. I'm going to perform all Chopin etudes there, and I'm looking forward to have a little meet and greet with you guys after the concert. Tickets and information in the description box. First up, we have to understand what stage fright is. As I already mentioned in the beginning, it's a very natural response and it can happen to anyone, even people who seemingly appear comfortable in front of a crowd. Now, here's an interesting article that I found at National Social Anxiety Center about public speaking anxiety and the fear of brain freezes. According to this article, evolution psychologists believe there are primordial roots, as living in a tribe was a basic survival skill and rejection from the group led to death. And speaking to an audience normally makes us vulnerable to rejection, much like our ancestors' fear. A fear that everyone has and probably everyone had somehow experienced in life is the brain freeze. But what exactly happens when the brain freezes? This is the part of our brain that sorts our memories and unfortunately is very sensitive to anxiety. Dr. Michael DeGeorgia of Case Western University Hospital says, if your brain starts to freeze up, you get more stressed and the stress hormones go even higher. That shuts down the frontal lobe and disconnects it from the rest of the brain. It makes it even harder to retrieve those memories. But what can we do to prevent these things from happening? A performance normally looks like this. 90% of it is completely prepared, and 10% of it is like, you don't exactly know what's going to happen, you just know that something can happen and you know that something maybe will happen and maybe this will make you struggle. Or it can push you into a higher performance level than what you've actually practiced. Now, before I get into these critical 10%, let's first talk about what you have to do to get these first 90% perfectly prepared for the concert. These 90% should be practiced so hard that your muscle memory kicks in. In other words, you don't have to actively think about it anymore. Now, most of you might think that I'm only referring to the muscle memory of playing piano, but it starts even earlier. It includes wearing your concert outfits at home while practicing and getting used to it, training to walk on stage, bowing, smiling, sitting down, and preparing the first note. So basically, think about every single movement that you're doing on stage and train it until your body gets so used to it that you don't have to think about it anymore. This might sound stupid, but trust me, you should not skip this part of your training. This will already make such a big difference in your appearance to the audience, but also it's going to limit the amount of things that's going to disturb you. Now, this is the easy part, and the good news is these 90% are under your control and you can be fully prepared for that. But now, let's talk about the last 10%. Unfortunately, we can't look into the future and we can't predict what's going to happen. However, chances are high that something might happen that you didn't practice. This means during our preparation time, we have to expect the unexpected and prepare ourselves for this situation. Now, here are some methods that I learned over the last 20 years of performing on stage. Something we already know before going on stage is that we tend to tense up when the stress level is getting higher. Now, the stress hormones are out of our control, but what we can control is the speed of our breath. By breathing slower and deeper, we can try to lower our heart rate and calm down the physical manifestation of stress. So what I like to do is to actively practice how I'm breathing. And this I can do at the piano, but also in front of a mirror. Now, I won't go into more details into what kind of exercises there are, because this would fill a couple of other videos. But just try to remember, take a deep breath before you go on stage. Now, sometimes the stress level is just getting too high and even breathing does not help anymore and it comes to a brain freeze or a blackout on stage. This is a situation that you should definitely count with and prepare yourself for. So you can, for example, practice checkpoints. So in case you're having a blackout, you can just start somewhere in the middle of the piece. Now, if you're wondering how to practice these checkpoints, what I like to do is to name the checkpoints with a letter and a number. I write it down on a snippet, put it in a box, and when I go and practice, I just randomly pick a snippet out of the box, and then I have to try to start exactly at that checkpoint. Sometimes we already start to struggle when we just accidentally hit a wrong note. So this might sound a little bit strange, but try to practice mistakes at home. So basically, when you're playing and you're accidentally hitting a wrong note, instead of stopping there, try to continue playing and ignore the mistake. Now, of course, you should first study the piece without any mistake. But when you reached a specific level with the piece, you should start practicing dealing with these mistakes. However, if you're doing the same mistake over and over and over again at the same part, please don't just practice how to cover it up, but go back one step and analyze what's wrong with this part and why you are making this mistake to prevent it from happening. Stage fright is something that we are dealing with in our day-to-day business as pianists. Overcoming it does not mean that you're not going to be nervous anymore. It just means that you're able to put the adrenaline into the right spots. I hope I could help you a little bit with this video to prepare for your next concert or your next presentation. Now, let me know in the comments how your concert routine looks like. I'm looking forward to our very first community concert on the 16th of December at the pop-up store at Steinway Stuttgart. In our previous live streams, we have picked 6 pianists who are going to perform a little concert for us. All of you who are coming from Stuttgart or around Stuttgart is very welcome to join us on that evening. To make it more professional, I've also printed a little program for everyone. I'm looking very much forward to our very first community concert. We'll see us in the next videos and in Stuttgart. See you there. Bye.